Hey, what's up everyone? In today's video we'll be looking at a pretty cool lock. This is the Amadeo 3DS FreeFlex. This is not exactly a very well-known lock on the market, but it's also quite new, so maybe not all people know about it. And yeah, let's take a look what it is. So this is the key, which looks pretty cool. Right away, a rectangular keyboard with Amadeo FreeFlex text, and here is the bitting. So I think they call it negative and positive cuts on the key. They say that it's a 96-bit coding, which I don't know what does it mean, except for that it's a lot of possible variations of the key, which of course sounds very nice. They say that they can put like the NFC chip in the keyboard, which is nice, but I don't really care. In terms of picking, it's like whatever. So that's another selling point, and you can tell that some of these cuts are like concave and some are actually convex, so that's the positive and negative queries. So that was the key. Housing is here. You can see two cutouts or channels on both of the sides where wafers go, because this is essentially a wafer lock. So I will talk about it in a minute. This is the core that looks almost skeletonized. Wording not exactly the most restrictive one, but there is some wording, as you can see. And yeah, so these are basically chambers that are filled with pairs of wafers. So, and they essentially go from this side. Chamber 1 is like from here, chamber 2 is from here, and you continue like that till you reach the end of the plug. So these round holes are for tiny little springs that are pushing the wafers towards one side. And for the sake of better explaining what does it look like, I have another plug that is actually filled with wafers. So you can see the pairs I mentioned of wafers that are here. So yeah, here are two, here are two, here are two, and the key is actually pushing them, in this case towards the camera, in this case away from the camera, and so on, depends on where the springs are. So let's take a look, a closer look at the wafers. They are pretty much very similar. So this is one of them. So it has three parts that are interesting for us. Hello. So this one is the one that interacts with the spring. This one interacts with the key, this little knob, and this is interesting for picking because actually this is the thing you have to push on if you're picking the lock. And this part, this protrusion, hello, the focus, this protrusion actually goes in the channel I showed you in the housing. So this is the actual thing that blocks the rotation. And when they are inside of the chamber, they are actually coupled like this. So as you can see, this is what it looks like. So yeah, basically that's the whole point. And now let's move towards what's interesting for all of us, and that's picking resistance. So how hard is it to pick? So without further ado, I will say it right away, this was actually a pretty disappointing pick, because for some reason the whole lock is designed, in all honesty, like a 6 wafer lock, which is extremely disappointing. It has 12 discs. I know that it does, but in reality you only have to push 6 of them. And why is that? So I already showed you that these wafers are in pairs, and they are both. So let's just take a look at this pair here. You can see that they are both sprung towards the camera. Actually, now you can tell if I remove the key, they will stick out like this. You can see that this part that I showed you that goes into the cutout in the housing sticks out, this one sticks out, and this one too. But what about this the other wafer in the chamber? Well, the other wafer in the chamber has the part that should be blocking the rotation on the other side. So essentially what happens is that both of these wafers are sprung towards the same direction, but only one of them has this protrusion that can block the rotation. The other one has it on the other side, that is basically sprung towards the center, so it doesn't do anything in the opposite channel for this protrusion. So hopefully I made myself clear. It wasn't actually the best explanation, but the bottom line is that only one of these wafers actually blocks the rotation, because the other one is doing nothing. It's just there, and it can never actually reach the sidebar channel, or how to call it, because it's sprung away from it, not into it. So yeah, that's actually pretty sad. It's pretty sad because the result, as I mentioned, is that you only have to push 6 wafers. That's pretty much it. So yeah, that's something for that price I paid for it. So how do we pick this lock? Well, the only problem, I guess, can be that there's not too much space in the keyway when it's filled with wafers, but it's still nothing too terrible. So you just tension it in where the wording is. I used a 1.5 millimeter tensioner, as you will see later, like this. So that's one way to do it. I actually had some results with the fork style tensioner, but I don't think it's necessary. And I use this multi-pick number 6 to push the binding wafers out of the way. You cannot really overset anything. You cannot even overset the wafer that is like basically inactive, because the spring will just push it back into its place. So yeah, picking it is not especially difficult. You're just pushing out of the way the wafers that are binding. That's all there is to it. So to be complete, I just will show you that these parts that interact with the key, these little knobs, can be positioned like on the top, in the middle, like here, or even on the bottom. So there are multiple possible places where the part that interacts with the key can be located in the keyway. So you might need to turn your flag or make some movements around the wording, but it's nothing too difficult, honestly. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that this cylinder has some potential when it comes to key control or some big systems, or maybe even it's good versus some environmental conditions or destructive attacks, since it's like 95% stainless steel. But in terms of picking resistance, it's a bummer, so to say. So nothing too exciting to see here. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Hopefully it was clear. I tried to explain it the best I can, and maybe someone can enlighten me why did they make such decision. I don't think they really focused on picking resistance when they made this cylinder. I think their strong points are somewhere else, but they could make it at least a little bit harder, because this is like a borderline blue/purple belt level, I would say. Alright, so without further ado, I think we can go ahead and get this lock picked. Alright, here we go. Okay, works. Okay. So let's go clockwise and just push those binding wafers out of the way, which is all you have to do in this lock, basically. So the first one is back there in position 5. Okay, I think I got something out of him. Let's try this bottom one. Click on 2. A little something out of 1. Number 4. Okay, that one is binding actually pretty hard. Okay, click there. I'll just check. This did not drop, doesn't look like it. Okay, these two are good. 1 should be good. Springy. I'll click out of, okay, 3. And co-rotation with a nice sound. So I guess we only have 6 to set. That one is actually a bit challenging because it's way back on the bottom of the keyway, but it's not that hard actually. Okay, so we have the log open. Perfect. So let's just get it. Unfortunately, I don't have the circlip pliers, so I will have to use these two gut wrenches to spread this circlip, because it's actually buried pretty deep. And this might take even longer than the actual pick. Okay, but maybe I will do it with just one. Maybe not. I don't know. But this looks good. Okay, maybe I will just use one. It's out. Perfect. So yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to do. Now let's just not leave the frame. I will focus on the lock right away. Okay, so switching to autofocus now. Yep, and a little bit of angle change. And like this, maybe even. Okay, that's good. Okay, so getting this log is actually pretty easy, but you still have to be a bit careful, but not like too much careful. Okay, so just turned it 90 degrees counterclockwise, I think, yeah, and it all just comes out. Basically everything is contained. The housing, there's nothing in the housing. And now it's better to, like, I don't know, catch those wafers so they don't go jumping out, but they won't jump out. See that they are not, there are springs but not strong enough to force them, eject them out of the plug. Anyway, so we will start removing those wafers, and I will try to put them into those circular slots in the pinning tray. So okay, this is like number 2, this is number 1, then these go, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these two are actually 9 and 10, so 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8. This is 10. Yes, and this one is 9. And now I will just flip the plug and remove the others. So this is 2, no, it's 3, sorry. And this one is 4. And this one goes here, here. This is the last one. And this is the one before last. So since this is like the first pick on YouTube, I think I will just remove those little springs, although I'm not a huge fan of doing this, but in order to remove any confusion, I'll just do it, so feel free to skip this part, and hopefully I will not lose any of these springs because they're really tiny and they like to stick to my fingers. It looks like there is some substance on them, like some glue almost, so they, I guess, don't fall out of their chambers. See, okay. Okay, that's everything is out from here. Luckily enough, those springs do not fall out of the plug by themselves, so that's good, because that will be super annoying if they did. Okay, I think like similar springs are, they kind of remind me of the springs of the Urban Alps tilt key sidebar, but it's been a while since I picked that one, so I don't really remember for sure. Okay, I only have the last one. Hopefully everything goes well. Okay, so these springs are pretty much all over the place, but hopefully you can appreciate it. They are all there soon. Okay, I will rather not touch them. Anyway, this is the housing. These are the wafers, and here are the springs. If anyone wants, you can count them just to make sure that everything was by the rules. And yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one, and yeah, hopefully we'll see each other real soon with the next video. Until then, have a nice day. Bye.